In 1984, Hammond introduced Tarantino to beginning producer Catherine James. She helped the young talent to get at least some kind of work in cinema. 10 years later, James helped produce Pulp Fiction. But back then, she was only able to help him get a cameo role in Golden Girls, where he played an Elvis impersonator. This episode was later included in a clip of the show's best moments and was often played on TV, thanks to which Quentin received royalties every time it was aired.
I always said, if ever I had to a guy, had to because my life depended on it, Elvis.
At the same time, Roger Avery gave Quentin his script to read. Open Road was about a couple in love who ended up on the wrong side of the law. Q liked it, and he spent a lot of time convincing Avery to finish it. Roger was always busy and clearly burned out, so he asked Quentin to do it himself. He agreed and took the task very seriously. He got so into it that he quit his job at Video Archives and moved back in with his mother. In a few months, there was almost nothing left of the original Open Road, and Avery's draft was used to create 2 screenplays, True Romance and Natural Born Killers. He finished True Romance first and decided to make the film himself, since his acting career didn't seem to be going anywhere, and the only way to get a part in a movie was to make it himself.
It's not right. It's not right, and it's not fucking fair.
Natural Born Killers was written with one goal in mind: sell the script and use the money to shoot True Romance. Unfortunately, nobody wanted anything to do with either of the scripts. Quentin didn't give up and decided to rework an old idea about the robbery of a jewelry store. Having completely devoted himself to his new work, Quentin first gave the rights to Natural Born Killers to Rand Vossler, who had helped him make My Best Friend's Birthday, and later, thanks to Catherine James, sold True Romance to the American Screen Actors Guild for the minimum amount allowed, $30,000. As 1989 unfolded, he had money and was working on a new screenplay called Reservoir Dogs. By the beginning of 1993, it was on everybody's lips. Reservoir Dogs was considered to be the best directing debut since the times of Citizen Kane. Catherine James was receiving calls from every agent, every producer, and every studio representative who were asking for Tarantino's previous screenplays. She sent them the same works which had been lying around the offices for years, unread, despite her having begged them to read them earlier. It's no surprise that right after the release of Reservoir Dogs, they started work on True Romance and Natural Born Killers. Back during the master classes at the Sundance Institute, Tarantino had met Tony Scott. Tony had been wanting to make a crime action film and offered to buy the rights to Reservoir Dogs. But Tarantino refused and asked him to read True Romance instead. He read it in one evening, and by the next day had used all his connections to buy the rights and find a $30 million budget.
I read it, I fell in love with it, and I think as a director, making a movie is about falling in love with a movie.
Biggest movie we've ever dealt with, Liam. We're talking a lot of film here. A man would have to be an idiot not to be a little bit cautious about a movie like that.
Quentin is a very rare animal, yeah. That what he does, he brings a reality to these people with a sense of humor. And it's very difficult to find a writer who can give you darkness and humor together.
We park our cars in the same garage.
He also got Roger Avery to join the project, since the first version of the screenplay was his. Roger tweaked the screenplay a little bit to find the director's needs, and also rewrote the finale.
One element that Tony added to it, that, again, it's not like a scene that he wrote, it's just something that came across in his shooting, is he added a fairy tale element to it that I don't think was as 100% in mine as it was in his.
You're so cool. You're so cool. You're so cool.
Tony knew that this upset Quentin, whereas Scott's happy end was a compromise with Hollywood's expectations of a commercial film. But in fact, the director made 2 versions of the finale and chose the one which he believed worked the best. Tarantino never publicly shared his disappointment, and called his work on True Romance exceptional.
Oh, yeah, we got this, puppy. This is a good idea.
I think by far he's the better guy to have done this movie. And also, it was exciting. The idea of seeing my world through Tony's eyes and have it look like that.
It's good. Mm-hmm. You like it?
Mm-hmm.
True Romance was produced by a company created by Quentin and Lawrence Bender, A Band Apart, named after the Jean-Luc Godard film Band Apart. Later, the company worked on all of Tarantino's films and partnered with Robert Rodriguez, John Woo, Tim Burton, Darren Aronofsky, and Luc Besson. After the premiere of True Romance, Quentin helped to promote the picture by going on the promo tour. And though he wasn't being paid for that, he went to great lengths to ensure the film's success at the box office.
Perfect merchandise.
However, with Natural Born Killers, it was a different story.
My name will get brought up from time to time, but I think I've done a pretty good job of distancing myself from the film. Basically, if you like it, it's all Oliver. Good, bad, or indifferent. It has very little to do with me.
It's junk food for the brains. It's, filler, fodder, whatever.
I was hanging out with Juliette Lewis, and we decided, let's go see it. So we just went to the movie theaters and paid to see it, and the reason you know about it is because we're watching the movie, we're 20 minutes into it, I'm getting pissed off, and she goes, let's just get the fuck out of here. Well, I've never seen it from beginning to end.
Why?
Oh, well, because he rewrote the script, and you just can't do that to me.
From the moment that the screenplay made it into Oliver Stone's hands, a quiet war began between the two directors. Tarantino had given the rights for Natural Born Killers to his friend, Ran Vossler, who had spent the last 4 years trying to make the movie and dreamed of directing it himself. Quentin had named only one condition. Ran was to shoot a small excerpt so that Quentin could make sure that their vision was the same. At that stage, Vossler had begun to collaborate with Don Murphy, who promised him $3 million for the budget. According to Tarantino, Vossler signed a contract with him, and 3 days later was removed as director and made co-producer instead. Having gotten his hands on the screenplay, Murphy passed it to Oliver Stone, who pretty much rewrote the whole thing with his colleagues. Tarantino was furious and said several times that everyone who was part of creating that film just wanted to use his newfound glory. Murphy countered by saying that he would never bet on a director whose Reservoir Dogs made less at the box office than Leprechaun.
You can't fix Ozzy's brain. I know that.
In another interview, Murphy explained that they had to rewrite the screenplay because, like all of Tarantino's screenplays, it seemed to be made up only of expletives.
Are you gonna bark all day, little doggy? Or are you gonna bite?
Similar quips and snide comments continued for more than a year, until both sides came to an agreement, whereby Tarantino would stop airing his discontent in exchange for a tidy sum. He also insisted that his name not appear in the credits, though it ended up there anyway. A humble line read, "Story by Quentin Tarantino." Thanks to the agreement, Quentin made more than $500,000 in royalties on this project. Oliver Stone thought it was incredibly hypocritical to sever all ties with the film, but then agreed to receive royalties and a percentage of the profit. He was also highly displeased when he found out that Quentin had told the actors from Reservoir Dogs that if they ever worked with Stone, they would never work with him again. The story reached its climax with the release of a non-fiction book entitled Killer Instinct, which told the story of the creation of Natural Born Killers. Within the pages, it's easy to find dozens of jabs and insults pointed at Quentin, with most quotes belonging to Don Murphy.
Got more taste in my penis.
This guy's really fucking funny.
If Quentin didn't agree with what was published in my book, he should have taken his grievances to a court of law. That's the civilized recourse society has provided for disagreements.
But Quentin didn't take them to court. On the 22nd of November 1997, in a Los Angeles restaurant, he beat Murphy up. He was stopped by the police on his way out, but Don didn't press charges. The conflict was mediated by Miramax co-founder Harvey Weinstein, who convinced the enemies to shake on it. But a few days later, Tarantino went on the Keenan Ivory weigh-in show and gladly described, in detail, how he'd bitch-slapped Murphy. He sued Tarantino and demanded $5 million in moral damages. The case was rejected, and both sides agreed to stop talking dirt about each other.
Hey, fuck you, buddy boy.
Fuck you.
All right, fuck you too.
Fuck you talking to.
All right? Hey, fuck off.